Hey kids, it's me again, back to talk about Act 1, Scene 5. So this is the scene where Romeo and Juliet first meet for the first time. Now remember, Romeo has been there sort of waiting to see Rosalind and not believing that anything could ever make him stop loving Rosalind, that he's just going to die miserable and alone because Rosalind has vowed to be chaste and never marry. And so he is just miserable. And then all of a sudden the dance begins and he sees Juliet. And that's when he says, "Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright." That basically means she's more beautiful than light. That, she is so beautiful that she could teach torches or candles or lights how to burn even brighter. And so we see how quickly Romeo goes from, thinking he'll never love again, right? He'll, die with his love of Rosalind in his heart, and he will never, ever, be able to love another woman. And then he sees Juliet and instantly is sort of taken with her. And so we might question, is this love? Is this, attraction? What is this? Did he really love Rosalind if he can so quickly, move from loving her to loving someone else? And, it depends on, I guess, sort of your belief in what love is and your concept of, whether love is, whether the physical attraction is essential in love, and whether, it's a major part of it or whether that's just, one little part of it. So it really depends on your view there. And so we also have, Tybalt seeing Romeo and realizing he's a Montague and wanting to kill him, and wanting to have, have him and his friends put to death, and Lord Capulet refusing to let that happen, right? And so, Tybalt, as we had seen in the first scene, is sort of bloodthirsty. He wants to kill anyone and everyone that he can who he sees as his enemy. He doesn't, want to let them get away with insulting him or with anything that, he just doesn't want them at his house. Like he's very, very angry that they've come to this party. And so he is trying to insist to Lord Capulet, whose home it is, that he should be able to kill them. And Lord Capulet says, well, no, these are young men. They're here. They're enjoying the party. We can, we just let them be. We don't need to kill them. We don't need to be violent people. And so Lord Capulet's trying to basically talk Tybalt into not, enforcing the feud at this moment. And so we see, again, a little bit of Lord Capulet's character, a little bit more of Tybalt's character. Tybalt calls him that villain Romeo, right? Like, poor Romeo is just a depressed, boy who is in love with a girl and now in love with another girl. But he doesn't seem to be what we would normally consider a villain. And, then of course, the famous meeting of Romeo and Juliet. And I think the videos that I posted can say it much better than I can. The idea of, palm to palm, they put their hands together, and then there's the idea of a palmer's kiss, and then they actually kiss, and then, they're sort of whisked away from each other. And the two different versions deal with that differently. Again, the older version from the 70s shows a more classical interpretation of the scene. And, if you were watching it on stage and they were doing a classic interpretation, that's sort of what it would look like. The modern version is, much, much different. And it takes, some liberties with some of the imagery, but, the words are still the same. And, a lot of the meanings of the words are still the same. And so they do the palm to palm thing. And so a lot of the things, stay the same, whether it was set in the 1400s and made in the 70s, or whether it was set in, the 90s and made in the 90s. And so that is what we have for that particular scene. And then at the end, I asked you about some of the figures of speech, right? And so, there's Juliet. She says, "Go ask his name. If he be married, my grave is like to be my wedding bed." And what she means there basically is if he's married, if Romeo is already married, then she would rather just die, because she has so quickly and instantly fallen in love with him that she doesn't really see any use of, doing anything else. And then when she finds out, of course, that he's Montague, she's devastated because she knows that, the families are feuding and the likelihood of them being able to be together is, slim. slim to none. And Romeo also says, oh, is she a Capulet? Oh, dear account. My life is my foe's debt. And so basically he says he's willing to give up his life for her, is what he means there. And so just this idea that they've so instantly fallen in love with each other, from seeing each other and kissing twice. And, it's just been sort of a whirlwind. If we talk about whirlwind romance, you don't get any faster than that. And so that takes us to the end of Act 1.